live in advance on the Gruely True Sports Network. I am your co-host for the show, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I'd like to welcome in my other co-host, Steve Risley. How you doing, Steve?
Hey, still doing great. Still watching people play football. Watching my team play, so it's good. It's another good week.
And it's 75 and sunny, I'm sure.
No, actually, it's raining here like Banshee.
Good.
We actually down in the 50s and we have rain.
All right.
It's an anomaly.
All right, and of course we have...
But it's filling our pool up, so we don't have to worry about putting water in the pool, so...
Are you that lazy?
No, water's expensive out here.
Water's expensive everywhere. Of course, we have our normal Monday guest from the FF Face-Off, which you can hear on thegrizzlytruth.net and YouTube, Anthony Cervino. How you doing, Anthony?
Hey, guys, I'm doing great.
All right. Let's start off with the Chargers and Ravens, because I think what this weekend showed was, number one, it's hard to win in the playoffs with a quarterback making his first start in the playoffs, but also on top of that, I think what we see is coaching is a huge factor in the playoffs. And with the Chargers and Ravens, it's twofold. Number one, Anthony, you've got to, one point or another, go with Joe Flacco, don't you?
Yeah, and I was tweeting about that all game yesterday. It's not like the game was out of reach. And from the get-go, the first three drives for the Ravens, it was, I think, punt, fumble, punt, or it just didn't look good. And I thought they should have made the move to Joe Flacco at the half, because I get that it's Lamar Jackson's team for the future, but you don't know if you're going to get back to the postseason. That defense was probably the best in the NFL. You don't know if they're going to be the same next year. Terrell Suggs isn't getting any younger. Neither is the former Charger, Eric Weddle. So I think they should have tried to win now. They owe it to their fans and players. So, yeah, I would have went to Flacco, and I'm disappointed that they didn't.
Well, and I think that the wild card weekend's MVP should go to Gus Bradley, the Chargers defensive coordinator. They got beat 22-10 by Baltimore a couple weeks ago, and he changed the defense, essentially deploying a defense comprised of linemen, defensive backs to shadow, flummox, and basically batter the rookie quarterback Lamar Jackson. The Chargers defense, I think, might be the best defense in the NFL, though. I mean, I may be way off here, but I think with the secondary that they employ and the defensive front they got, they're as good as anybody, Anthony.
Yeah, and we saw some kinks in the armor, but they finished the regular season, I think, a top 10 defense against passing and against rushing, and this team's only going to get better. You know, they're expected to activate Hunter Henry today or at some point this week.
Yeah, and they have a ton of weapons to go to New England next. But, Steve, when we look at this game, I still think it goes back to the fact that it's really hard to win in the NFL for a quarterback who's a run-first guy. Lamar Jackson, 14 for 29, 194 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. People will say in the fourth quarter he played well, but it looked to me like he completed a couple of those passes with his eyes shut and just threw it up.
We've talked about that for a long time. That, you know, and I'm not as intelligent as either one of you two on this faucet, but I do have opinions, as you can well imagine. I think that the NFL is set up as for pocket passing quarterbacks. The rules are set up, the protection is set up, everything. And when you start getting guys that there's two kinds of run. There's guys that look to run as a 50-50 thing, and there's guys that run to fight for their life. You know, guys like Luck and guys like Brady, they run because they have no choice. They have to go run. They're not good at it. They don't like to do it. But, you know, you got guys like Deshaun Winston, Jameis Winston, Deshaun Watson. You know, they almost like it's a 50% choice over running or not. And I just don't think that that's the way to win in the NFL. The rules don't protect you that well, and you're not taking advantage of your ability. You're probably giving up an arm a little bit, or an accurate arm, because guys are better athletes. They want to run more, and they make a little bit less informed decisions, is what I would say.
Yeah, and I think the difference, though, between a Deshaun Watson and a Lamar Jackson is this. Deshaun Watson can throw the football. When I watch Lamar Jackson, I mean, he's missing guys that are wide open. And I know his offensive line in Baltimore is not very good. Deshaun Watson's is not very good. Neither one of them have a lot of weapons there, so it's hard to blame them. But just when I see Lamar Jackson play football at the quarterback position, Anthony, what I see is a guy that the game is going real fast for him at the moment.
Yeah, I think it is too. They were also. I don't know if he's ready to be an NFL passer, and I think that's a big reason why.
Well,
He wasn't exactly expected to take over for Joe Flacco, and all the preseason reports on him that he wasn't ready.
Yeah, and I think it's more than preseason reports because I don't think he'll ever be ready. Then we go to a quarterback who is ready, Andrew Luck.
Well, hang on. I think if you watch the end of that game, you saw that he missed badly on some throws that could have put them back in the lead and could have maybe solidified a lead for him. I mean, he underthrew the ball. They bounced up. He missed badly on some throws. I mean, he wasn't accurate.
This is a guy, Steve, that in the third quarter at one point had only thrown for 6 yards in the entire game.
Right. Yeah.
But
yeah, I just don't think you're going to win that way. But my question to you, Mike, is all the reports I've heard isn't address this, please, because you have a better insight on this than I would. But they've basically given up on Joe Flacco. They basically said he's not going to be here next year. So why would they play him? Why would they put him in and play him?
You put him in because you want to win the game.
He's not going to be here.
You put him in because you want to win the game.
I know.
The question is John Harbaugh the one who wants Lamar Jackson, or is the owner? I mean, they drafted him with a first-round pick. And the thing that struck me is this. All these Ravens fans that badmouth Flacco all the time, in the third and fourth quarter, every time Jackson came on the field, they booed him. So,
yeah, I know.
In the end, Joe Flacco will go somewhere, and if he's healthy, he'll be successful. Lamar Jackson won't, and the Baltimore Ravens with Lamar Jackson will probably never get back to the playoffs again. That's what
here's
I think.
The question, Anthony. Here's the question: Does Harbaugh stay in Baltimore? I mean, I heard other teams are courting him. I've heard Tampa Bay is interested in him. Cleveland's interested in him. I mean, there's other teams. Does he stay there, or does he say, I'm getting the hell out of here because this is not my quarterback of the future, and I'm not going to be able to win with this guy?
Well, from what I know is that John Harbaugh did not sign a contract yet. So technically, I think it's up to him, and I think it's up to what other teams want to pay him. And if the right job comes along and the right amount, I think he leaves. But the Ravens, he's been there for so long. He has a new quarterback that it looks like he believes in because he did leave Lamar Jackson in the game.
Yeah, because I would think this. If he was going to leave, he'd put Flacco in to try to win the game.
Right.
Well, there's the $10 question, though, Mike, is who believes in the quarterback, the owner or the coach? There's the $10 question. You alluded to that several times. I mean, is he getting a headset call down from the owner's box saying, don't pull him? Just run with him. We'll just take it and we'll go.
With no contract, I would think he would just do whatever he thought was right there. Because if he could go somewhere else, I would think for some reason he thinks Lamar Jackson is the guy that can do it. I think he's going to stay in Baltimore, and I think it'll get him fired a year or two from now.
Yeah, Mike, when was the last time Flacco actually did meaningful minutes in a football game? It's been a while, hasn't it?
Well, he played the first, 7 or 8 games of the season. He got hurt, and then Jackson replaced him. It doesn't matter. It's Joe Flacco. It's the playoffs. I'll take my chances with that over a guy that's thrown for 6 yards in the first 3 quarters. I would have started him. I would have started him last week. But I just think Joe Flacco is a quarterback that is better than people give him credit for. I watched the man take the Ravens to the Super Bowl. I've watched him win playoff games at New England, which hardly anybody ever does. And in the end, I just don't see it with Lamar Jackson. The guy I do see it with is Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck, 19 for 32, 222 yards, 2 touchdowns. But the thing that stands out to me here...
Are we going to the Colts game now?
Well, obviously. Follow along.
Oh, all right. Cool. All right.
But the thing that sticks out to me is the Colts' offensive line, how good it is. the Texans' offensive line and how bad it is. Marlon Mack, 24 carries, 148 yards. And when I look at this team going to Kansas City, the way their offensive line can dominate the line of scrimmage, Andrew Luck is a veteran quarterback who's been in this before. I don't see a reason why they cannot go to Kansas City and win the game.
Yeah. Mike, let me ask you a question, or Anthony, either one. You guys, I watched that game. I mean, I was up at 8 o'clock. I was up at 5 o'clock in the morning watching all the cute chicks in leather pants on NFL Today, on NFL Network. It's a sex contest. You go there early enough in the morning, they don't even care about what they know. It's what they look like. Anyway, the Colts came out and dominated the first half of the game. And then it almost seems to me, you guys tell me about this, because, I got real concerned because it seems they went into a prevent mode in the second half of the game. They just stopped trying to score. They were going to just run the clock, take the running, and they stopped doing the things that put them up 21-0 at halftime. Am I right or wrong there?
I think you're right. What do you think, Anthony?
Yeah, I do think that they took their foot off the gas because they were dominating offensively in the first half.
Yeah, and my concern with that is if you go to Kansas City and you're up 21-0 and you do that,
right? You can't do that there.
You're going to lose the game 42-21.
Right, I want to kill you.
But still, the thing I come back to is this: I think the Indianapolis Colts are set up to be one of the best teams in the AFC for the next 5 to 10 years. Because that offensive line is that good. And when we watch the playoffs, Seattle's offensive line is not very good. The Cowboys' offensive line is average, which means they're one of the top 10 lines in football probably right now. Offensive line play is bad in the NFL. The Indianapolis Colts have young offensive linemen, and Quentin Nelson dominated Jadeveon Clowney. They dominated the Houston Texans. Defensive line is considered one of the best in football. J.J. Watt really didn't play a huge part in this game. So when I look at this, the thing I come away from this game is just the way the Colts can physically control the line of scrimmage on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, and Anthony, my question is that who's the leader of that offensive line? Is it Ryan Kelly or is it Quentin Nelson? Or is it Anthony Costanzo? Who's the leader of that offensive line?
I think leader, it's either going to be Costanzo or Kelly because they're the veterans. And I don't even think the two rookies that are starting, Nelson and Braden Smith, I don't think they care. I think they're such a tight-knit group. They've been together for weeks now, ever since everybody's been healthy. And I think that they're dangerous. I think the Colts, and they're probably the most dangerous team in football to me.
I think.
So
go ahead.
What do the Colts do? They've got $118 million in salary cap space. I mean, there's Antonio Brown out there. There's Le'Veon Bell. Do they make those kind of changes, or do they take their money and spend it shoring up their defensive backs and shoring up their linebackers and get Leonard some help back there or building some pass rush? Where do the Colts spend their money?
I would spend it on
another receiver because
T.Y.
can't carry that load all by himself all the time.
Yeah, I would go D-line and receiver, and the reason I would do that is this. The most important part of any football team, Anthony, to me, is the offensive line and the defensive line. Right now, the Colts' defensive line is average. If they build a defensive line that's that good, the thing is this. With Darius Leonard back there, he's one of the best linebackers in football, and barring injury, he will be for the next decade. When you have a defensive line that's really good and a linebacker like Darius Leonard, almost anybody you put around him with a solid defensive line in front of him are going to be good linebackers. They're going to be just because you got Darius Leonard next to you, and if you have a defensive line in front of you that's really good, that makes those linebackers that much better also.
Yeah, I absolutely agree there. But I still think they need to bring in another playmaker on offense. I don't know how sold I am on Marlon Mack to do it all by himself. And then Nyheim Hines coming in as pass catcher. That works great, and that's just how the Chicago Bears made it to the playoffs. But look at the Todd Gurley's, look at the Ezekiel Elliott's, those players who can catch 60, 70 passes and run for 1,300 yards, and they can do it all without leaving the field. That's Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah,
And
but
if I'm the
Le'Veon
coach,
Bell is
I'm
the problem. Why do you
in.
want to bring somebody that's a cancer in your locker room?
Because Andrew Luck is
Or
a better
Antonio
leader
Brown.
than Ben Roethlisberger.
What was that?
Andrew Luck's a better leader than Andrew Roethlisberger. I think
you
if
know
you
what?
get, I think the Colts locker room is in better shape than the Steelers. I think Mike Tomlin, and we've talked about this, he has no control, and he let his players, run amok. Look at the guys like Bill Belichick. There's never issues, no matter how big the personality.
Yeah,
And
but I
if the
also
Colts
don't you think this? If you've got an average running back by Marlon Mack and you put him behind the best offensive line in football, he's better than average.
Well, 140 yards worth last week.
I mean, that's against the Houston Texans defensive line that's supposed to be one of the best in football.
Best in the NFL.
They throw 6.2 yards per carry on him.
And I would say that Antonio Brown is a bigger distraction than Bell. All Bell did, he just didn't sign this contract. He wanted to get paid more because he believed he wants to earn more money. Antonio Brown just is very disruptive within the team, going on Facebook Live and fighting with your quarterback and trying to spike your quarterback with a football. All Bell wanted was more money, and he sat out and he took the not penalty, but he didn't get paid. So I have less of an issue with Le'Veon Bell than I do Antonio Brown.
Well, I think this, though. I think if you're building a football team and you've got that much money, you go get other players outside of a running back. I mean, you don't have to have a stud running back to win a Super Bowl. And the Patriots have proven it for years. The Eagles proved it last year. I mean, it doesn't hurt, but look at all the great all-time running backs that never won a Super Bowl. O.J. Simpson never won a playoff game.
Look what the Colts did with Edgerrin James, too. I mean, the Colts basically put Edgerrin James on the Hall of Fame ballot. I mean, he was a great running back, but he was not really heralded as on the level of a lot of great Hall of Fame running backs. But now he's on the Hall of Fame ballot this year.
Yeah, I would think a big-time receiver would do more for them than anything right now.
Yeah, they need somebody because T.Y. is just going to just start getting, double covered, triple covered, but Luck has been so accurate, but you can't rely on that every game. I mean, he made some passes. So, Anthony, my question is, Andrew Luck, is he a great quarterback, a statistical quarterback like a Dan Marino, or is he just a great winning quarterback?
That's a tough question because
too early to tell.
Yeah, because of that injury.
Okay.
That injury, we saw it going in one direction, then the injury happened.
Yeah, and
I
think that's something that you make the judgment on 4 or 5 years from now.
Yeah. You know how his injury happened, don't you?
Snowboarding, yeah. He was snowboarding.
Yeah. He's busted his shoulder up snowboarding. Cost him a year and a half.
I had some female on Facebook who was arguing with me that she would rather have Lamar Jackson over Andrew Luck because she thought that Andrew Luck was not a big game quarterback and that he was injury prone. So she thinks Lamar Jackson is going to have a better career.
So
Mike, Andrew
let me ask you this question.
We need to have her on this show, by the way. But go ahead.
Yeah, definitely. Mike, let me ask you this question. Right now, playing this Saturday and Sunday, who's the best quarterback in the NFL right now? I mean, I know you can talk about careers and statistics, but who right now would you want to carry your team and to get to the next round of the playoffs? Who is that quarterback that you as a quarterback coach, or Anthony, you too, because you're pretty smart at this too. Who's the best quarterback right now?
Tom Brady.
Still Brady?
Tom Brady. I mean, this is the thing. Yeah. You just asked me a question that answered your question. You asked me the question whether Andrew Luck was a great quarterback, or a winning quarterback, or is he just a great quarterback? And we already know that answer with Tom Brady. He might be old, but until I see him get beat, and I see him play poorly while get beat, you can't put Andrew Luck and Tom Brady. You can't put anybody left in this in Tom Brady's atmosphere. The dude's won 5 Super Bowls.
I agree.
My second choice there is Drew Brees, because we know Drew Brees is a winner. Patrick Mahomes, he's never played a playoff game. And I think that's one of the reasons right now, it's not Friday yet, but I would lean towards the Colts in this game because I trust him more. With Dak Prescott, I think he's a good quarterback. I think he's better than what most people think he is. I love Dak Prescott. I think he does have a shortcoming. I don't know if that can ever be fixed.
Doesn't throw people open.
He doesn't throw people open, but still, I think this, Dak Prescott to me is a winner. He's a guy that can make a play at the end of the game. He can't throw you open, so you got to get your ass open yourself, but he'll make that throw. We saw a guy like Lamar Jackson who can't make that throw. You know, he can't throw you open. Hell, half the time he can't throw it to you if you're wide open. Jared Goff, to me, I would take Dak Prescott over Jared Goff in a heartbeat. You know, that's why I give the Cowboys a chance against the Rams. And I think the greatest thing...
Think about it, everybody would do that.
I think the greatest thing that ever happened, I don't think most people would. I think most people would take Jared Goff.
Really?
I do.
Really?
I think most people would take Goff. I think Dak Prescott gets a bum rap that he doesn't deserve. I mean, you look at him, he's played, 3 years in the NFL? The first year, hell, he was an MVP candidate. He goes, 13-3, 12-4, takes his team to the playoffs. Last year, they kind of fell apart. But this year, he's got him in the playoffs again. He won a playoff game. When you look at Nick Foles, he didn't play well yesterday. But from what I see, Nick Foles is nothing but a winner. He'll figure it out. He'll win the game.
He finds ways to beat you.
Your kicker, if Nick Foles is the quarterback on the other team, your kicker's going to miss. Because for some reason, Nick Foles wins. Then you got tragedy. So really, to me, the only two quarterbacks that you can totally trust and say that are winners that are left. Well, Phillip Rivers is in there too, and I think with Phillip Rivers, I think your biggest problem is this. I think Phillip Rivers is a winner. I just don't think he's been on a team capable of winning. Yeah, because we've seen him go to Indianapolis. We've seen him host Indianapolis and completely outplay Peyton Manning in playoff games.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
but
he's got our number. He's got Colts' number.
And people forget, the year the Patriots went undefeated, the championship game, the Chargers lost 21-12, and you had a beat-up, hurt LaDainian Tomlinson. Rivers was hurt, but they were in that game up until the last 5 minutes of the game. So I think you've got 5 quarterbacks here heads and shoulders above everybody else, maybe 6. You've got your question with Mahomes. I think there's a small question with Luck, but I don't think it's a big question. My big question here is this. If you've got Andrew Luck and you're up 21-0, why don't you go for the kill? That game should have been 35-0 by the end of the third quarter.
Yeah, they stopped doing that. That was a glaring flaw. I mean, they didn't score in the second half. They didn't really sniff. They just chewed up clock, which, fortunately, Houston was not doing anything relevant, or Houston had plenty of opportunities to get themselves back in that game real quick.
Well, and I can tell you, if I'm coaching that game, I may do it the same way that Frank Reich did, because at 21-0, the Texans were not a threat offensively. I mean, Winston threw for 235 yards. There was no running threat, or Watson. I mean, there's no running threat outside of Watson. So really, probably the only way you're going to lose the game is by trying to extend the lead and maybe turning the ball over, get the crowd in the game, and something bad happens. But I'd like to hear Anthony's opinion on the quarterbacks right now, too.
As we stand right now, the best quarterbacks left in the playoffs?
Well, just who is the guy? What was the question, Steve?
Who is the guy that you think has the ability to win as opposed to just being statistically a Dan Marino? Who's the guy that's going to just say, I'm going to will myself and will my team to win? And who is the guy that you fear the most in that scenario?
I'm going to have to say either a Brady or Breeze. They are the proven assets, but why not Dak Prescott? If you're talking about willing a team to win, if you remember back to that Saints game, he took off and put his shoulder down and ran for a first down that sealed the game. And then look at the game against the Seahawks. He just took off, put his shoulder down, put his body on the line, and got that first down. Dak's not a stat guy, but in big games he shows up.
Anthony, calm down. The Cowboys won a playoff game. I said I thought Prescott was good, but to put him in a category of willing your team to win with Tom Brady, who has led multiple game-winning Super Bowl drives.
Oh no, Mike, I would disagree with you a little bit there. I mean, Dak Prescott plays to win. He makes mistakes.
Yeah.
The guys that
and
do
he's
that.
Now won one
we talk about
game.
Devontae Green at IU.
You cannot.
I mean, they take chances and risk, and they go for it.
Guys.
And I think the Cowboys are the most dangerous team left in the playoffs. They're not the best.
5 minutes ago, you said the Indianapolis Colts were. You can't even make up your minds.
No, I didn't say that. No, I don't.
I said that. I said
Kansas City.
Yeah, you guys are just basically circling it.
I don't think the Colts can beat Kansas City. I think Mahomes is too good, and they got too much crap going on.
I don't believe that for a second. Yeah, I mean, the Chiefs' defense is crap. And I think the Colts can beat them the same way they beat the Texans. Because I don't think there's a huge difference between the Texans and the Chiefs, other than the Texans have a little bit of a defense. The Chiefs have a lot better offense.
Mike, what is the weather conditions for Kansas City?
I don't care right now because this is Monday, and I've watched the news enough to know that you really can't even think about it until 2 days out.
Can't predict it, yeah.
We'll talk about it Friday. And maybe Friday, when we have our special guest on to pick the games, maybe we'll see if Anthony wants to come back too, and we'll all pick the games together.
I'm down.
I'd love to have him.
But, yeah, and I like that Prescott, but to talk about, to put him up there with Brady and Breeze, they've willed their teams to win Super Bowl.
No, I don't think he's up there with Brady and Breeze, but I think the Cowboys are just a very talented football team that is grossly undercoached.
And I know you're a Cowboy fan, Anthony, but Nick Foles can will a team to win a game. Hell, he did in the Super Bowl last year.
Right. As can Dak Prescott. I'm beginning to believe he can do that.
Can't. You can't until you have. We can
which is why I said I'm putting Brady and Breeze up top.
When he's got Amari Cooper and Ezekiel Elliott back there with him, and the defensive front line that the Cowboys have, that team comes together and finds ways to win football games. That's what they're doing really good right now. They're a scary team.
But it still comes down to this. When you play the Saints in New Orleans, you're going to have to throw people open in that game, and he can't do that. That's a problem. Because that's
Is the Saints defense that good, Mike?
I think the Saints defense is that good, especially the last half of the season. They held Dallas to 13 points. My problem is this. I think when you play New Orleans in New Orleans in a playoff situation, you're going to have to score at least 24 to 30 points.
The Cowboys are going to Los Angeles.
I know, but we're talking about ahead of time because I'm 50-50 on who I pick in that game right now because I am not a big believer in Jared Goff. I think Prescott's better. Now, Todd Gurley, I think him and Ezekiel Elliott are pretty much equal to me. But Ezekiel Elliott's been healthy. Todd Gurley hasn't. Defensively, the Rams are not as good as the Cowboys. They're just not. And the Rams are not a deep team.
Rams are not as good as the Cowboys.
And you're going to L.A., and it's not like you're going to have a huge home field advantage there. And if we saw anything this week, home field advantage isn't anything. I mean, 3 out of 4 games were won by the away teams. So,
yeah.
All right, so let's talk Seahawks and Cowboys. 24-22 Cowboy win. And I think this proves my point again. Pete Carroll sucks as a coach. That's why when we picked this game, I picked the game because of Russell Wilson. But when you have a Russell Wilson in the playoffs and you do not allow him the freedom to try to win you the game, I think that's a problem. I mean, I don't think with their offensive line that anybody thought that Seattle was going to be able to run the ball down Dallas's throat. You're going to win the game basically throwing the ball. And they never turned Russell Wilson loose. And yes, I think Jason Garrett is a better coach than Pete Carroll. There, I said it. Anthony?
Okay.
That's if you're serious, that's a big compliment coming from you because you've killed Jason Garrett all season.
You've never heard me say anything ever positive about Pete Carroll. And every time we talk about the Seahawks,
or Pete Carroll,
Steve always rips me because I said Pete Carroll's not that good of a coach.
I think Pete Carroll just does. He has karma. I think what Pete Carroll does really well for Seattle is he's just got great karma in the way he coaches and things like that.
No, he
Now,
doesn't.
Mike
he had the greatest defense in NFL history in Russell Wilson. He won 1 Super Bowl. He screwed the other one up because he didn't hand the ball to Marshawn Lynch. Since then, that team has went downhill. The only reason they're in the playoffs is he's got Russell Wilson.
Fair. So, are the Seahawks basically, Mike, just Russell Wilson? Is that it, or do they have
who else
complementary
do they have?
people?
They've got a couple decent running backs. I think Doug Baldwin's turned into a really good receiver. Tyler Lockett's a good receiver, but the offensive line's not very good. The defense is better than what I thought they'd be, but they're nowhere near what they used to be. I think this team got to the playoffs because of Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson is a winner. He can will your team to win a game, and he will to keep his team in this game. But if I got Russell Wilson against the Cowboys, I'm going to throw the ball 40 times.
Well, how many passes did he throw in the game?
It was 18 for 27, and really probably over half of those passes were in the fourth quarter when they got behind.
There were no rushers at all. They had 4 for 29, 13 for 20. They had no ground game whatsoever, so they were relying pretty much solely on Russell Wilson.
Yeah, but they continued to try to run Chris Carson, and their offensive line is not going to penetrate Dallas's defense. It's just not going to happen. Okay. So why not put the ball in the hands of the guy that can make it happen?
Oh, I agree. So Anthony, let me just turn you loose. What's good about the Cowboys? I mean, I feel the same way about the Colts that you do about the Cowboys. Mike and the Bengals. He's going to get that team turned around. They're going to get a coach in there, and
no, they're not.
The Bengals will be relevant again very quickly.
No, they won't.
Hopefully, I hope they do. I like the Bengals, but so Anthony, what's great and good about the Cowboys? So speak it out. Talk to us.
I mean, I don't know if I'm exactly going to call the Cowboys great. I mean, they had a really good playoff game, and they did what they had to do. But I think they're on their way. And I think I became an Eagles fan yesterday just because I'd rather play the Rams. I think they could, Ezekiel Elliott, he had 30 touches for over 160 yards and a touchdown. I think if Ezekiel Elliott continues to get that type of a workload and you keep the Rams offense off the field, and even when the Rams offense is on the field, I don't know if Jared Goff can hang in there and take the pressure that the Dallas Cowboys can send. They're also really, really good at open field tackling. Jalen Smith and Leighton Vander Esch, and even those guys in the secondary, they fly around the ball and swarm. They're very similar to the Colts on defense, so I think they're really dangerous this week.
All right, Anthony, my question is this. I got a question here, because when I look at this, if I'm a Cowboys fan, I immediately think, yes, we don't have to play the Saints yet. But if you want to go to the Super Bowl, I think the best time to play the Saints is this week, because they didn't play their starters a couple weeks ago. They're going to be going almost 3 weeks without playing a football game. And I would think the best time to get them, if you want to beat them, is in this divisional playoff round.
Yeah, I think you have a point there, and I know it's a long shot to happen, but I've thought about it. Is there a chance that we see an Eagles-Cowboys NFC Championship game? Because you did say that you think it's 50-50 with the Rams and the Cowboys. If the Eagles get hot, I mean, we could very well see, something that we don't see a lot in the NFL.
Right.
And that's
I think there is
one
major problem with that scenario. I think the Eagles' defensive backs are terrible. I don't think they're going to be able to stop the Saints. I think my difference here between the Eagles and the Cowboys doing it, Eagles and Cowboys are almost equal on the danger they pose right now. I think the Cowboys are a more talented team, but I think the Eagles are a better coach team. But I think the difference is this. If you were to go to New Orleans right now, I think New Orleans might be a little rusty. I think Dallas's defense could take advantage of that and maybe get a 10-point lead early. I don't think with the Eagles' DBs that even if the Saints are rusty, that they're going to be able to jump out to a 10-point lead. Because even a rusty Drew Brees is going to score against those DBs. I think the DBs are a huge problem for the Eagles. I think you didn't see it yesterday, and we'll get to this in a minute, just because Mitch Trubisky is not a Drew Brees or a Tom Brady or an Andrew Luck or even a Dak Prescott yet. So I think in the end, it's a horrible matchup for the Eagles, because I think the Eagles' weakness is the Saints' strength. I mean, the Saints' strength is Drew Brees throwing the ball. Even though they can run, even though the defense is good, it's still hard to top Drew Brees throwing the football behind a really good offensive line.
Mike, what does Drew Brees do? Does he? And I don't watch the Saints play a lot. Does he bomb you, or does he pick you apart with short passes and just
picks you apart? He eventually
keep it underneath. picks you apart. Yeah.
The thing that makes it hard
That's where
against
you get
Drew
dangerous.
Brees is this. If you watch Drew Brees and his like 3-step drop, 5-step drop, whatever it is, he drops about 5 yards deeper than every other quarterback. He does that because he's under 6 feet tall. And when you watch him, you'll see him drop a little deeper, and then he will slide downhill into the pocket. And the reason he gets the deeper drop and slides downhill into the pocket is because then it eliminates the disadvantage he has with his height. So you'll see him get a deeper drop than almost everybody else. Russell Wilson does too. If you think about it, a lot of times you're watching these guys and they're dropping 10, 12 yards deep. But then they find the pocket because they both have great pocket presence, and then they can find a receiver. And it makes it really hard for a defensive line because what happens then is the defensive ends almost invariably will take a deeper rush than they normally do, and you'll see ends fly past him all day long. And then the end can't make the play, and then that's opened it up where he can throw the ball anywhere unimpeded without anything really blocking his vision.
So, Anthony, what do the Eagles do? Do they dump Wentz and go with Foles? I mean, they win with Foles, or do they dump Foles and stay with Wentz?
I think it depends. I feel like if you
what's the age difference?
What's
the age difference in the two?
A couple of years,
roughly.
I don't know off the top of my head. Let's say 4 years, maybe more.
I think Wentz is about
years,
Andy Dalton's age, so he's around 28, I would think. 28, 29.
You know,
I think his first year was like 12 or 13.
And Foles is probably in his early 30s.
If John Gruden is willing
Foles isn't that old.
first-round draft picks to
Foles is
Carson
not that
Wentz, I
old.
think
No, Foles is like 28 or 29. Wentz is like 24, 23.
Okay. But what do you do, Mike or Anthony? What do you guys do? They've got a quarterback controversy. I mean, you can call
How's
it not.
the season
end?
end? Because, if Foles wins the Super Bowl, I think you got to keep him. If he gets you there, you got to keep him. I think if he beats the Saints, you got to keep him. I think right now you got to keep him anyways. I think this, and Steve brought this up to us earlier, Anthony, is he just a great stats quarterback or is he a winner? And I think there's a huge question when it comes to Carson Wentz on that. Plus, Carson Wentz missed an entire year in college with an injury, and now he's missing, part of this year, part of last year. So I think
last year.
Injury concerns have to be a big question too, Anthony.
No, it is. He even had the ribs in his rookie season. He had a ribs injury in the preseason. So every year, I would say for the past, 4 years, that Carson Wentz has dealt with some kind of an injury, some more significant than others. So far his tenure in the NFL, his rookie year, he was very average. And then he has that big 10-13 games the next year where he's in the MVP race. And then this year we've seen, a very average, again, Carson Wentz, in my opinion, who only keyed on Zach Ertz. I mean, he wasn't spreading the ball around. If you look at the wide receiver statistics, when Wentz was in there, it was Zach Ertz, and then once in a while they would sprinkle in Alshon and Nelson Aguilar. We're only seeing Aguilar and Alshon take off, really, since Nick Foles has been there. If I'm the Eagles, why not contact, or why not see if the Raiders contact them about Carson Wentz? Because we know John Gruden isn't sold on Derek Carr, and we know he likes Carson Wentz. I'm not saying trade Carr to the Eagles, but if you can get something from Derek Carr and then you can move 2 picks for Carson Wentz, that's the move that the Eagles should make.
Yeah, and I would think with that, if you trade for Wentz, I mean, you're not going to trade Carr for Wentz because why would the Eagles want to take on another quarterback in that contract? But it also frees you up with the Raiders. You could trade Carr to somebody that's desperate for a quarterback. It would make sense to me. And the Eagles could get a lot back.
Minneapolis.
Yeah, and remember this, the Raiders have a ton. And the other person you got to throw in this is Joe Flacco at some point. Because you bring up the Vikings, we got the Giants, we got the Jaguars. Right. I mean, there's a lot of teams there that may just be a quarterback away. Joe Flacco's won a Super Bowl. Nick Foles has won a Super Bowl if Nick Foles is going to be gone. So, I don't know. I just think
interesting.
and I think also the explanation I gave you on Drew Brees, and you just blew it past, I feel hurt because I thought that was an excellent,
No, I think Drew Brees he's the MVP. I mean, I think they're going to give it. I hope they don't give it to Mahomes.
You know what?
I don't
this
like
is the thing, Anthony.
What hit wonders.
He thinks Drew Brees is the MVP, but next week during the game, when Andrew Luck makes a great throw, I'll get a text that says, "There's no way Andrew Luck shouldn't get the MVP."
No, I'll say that right now. I think he's playing as good a quarterback as any player in the NFL right now. I don't think that he's the MVP. He's got flaws. He's got things to work on. But right now, if you've got him behind Ryan Kelly and that offensive line, and you got T.Y. Hilton, and you got Eron, the tight end, and you got a great running back who's just sneaking under everybody, he's incredibly dangerous.
How about this, then?
Because
I'll bet you
he's
anything.
accurate.
If you'd have put the Colts offensive line in front of Deshaun Watson and the Texans offensive line in front of, Andrew Luck, Texans would have won the game.
It'd be different. Sure. Of course.
Yeah. Because, I mean,
No doubt,
really,
yeah.
when I watched
Deshaun
Watson, Deshaun Watson's internal clock is so messed up by being hit so many times this year that, because to me, Deshaun Watson's not a run-first quarterback, but he's become one over the last few weeks because the offensive line is so bad. All right, that brings us to the Philadelphia Eagles, who won again.
Well, can I just go through these games and just ask you guys some questions? Because, again, you're the experts. I'm just the guy asking questions.
Go ahead, Steve.
What do the Colts have to do to win? What do the Chiefs have to do to win? Just for 10 seconds. What does either team have, both of you?
Colts have to run the ball. Chiefs have to stop the run. Because if the Colts run the ball, they can control the game.
Anthony?
Yeah, I agree with that, too. And to add to that, the Chiefs had, I think, one of the worst run defenses in the league. So, if Andrew Luck is the strong point of the Colts, the Chiefs' inability to defend a run really completes the Colts' offense this week. And I think this is going to be a big point-scoring game. And I think the Colts, their defense is going to be the key. If their defense could somehow contain the Chiefs, the Colts are going to win this game.
The key is going to be this. Patrick Mahomes is going to turn the ball over. The question is, which side of the field does he turn the ball over? And Andrew Luck, if he takes care of the ball, they run the ball, their defense is better, I think they win the game. And Andy Reid is proven he has a hard time in situations like this.
All right, so what do the Chiefs have to do to win the game, guys?
The Chiefs have
just real quickly,
I think this. They have to be able to play enough run defense to make the Colts throw the ball. And, yeah, the Colts can score like that quickly. But if the Colts score quickly, that's fine with me if I'm the Chiefs. It's like, I don't know if you remember, Steve, Paul Westhead when he coached Loyola Marymount, where they were just trying to score as quick as they could. They didn't care if you scored because they wanted to play at a frenetic pace and break your will. I think with the Chiefs, that's what you want. I mean, if you're the Chiefs, if I was the Chiefs, I'd almost put 8 men in the box, make Andrew Luck throw the ball, so if they score, they do it quickly, and we get in a shootout.
That's fair. Yeah, and who wins that game if it's a shootout?
If it's a shootout, the Chiefs win the game. The Colts can't win the shootout.
Do they? Okay. All right, let's go to the Cowboys and Rams.
Put it like this, Steve, real quick. You got T.Y. Hilton, and you've got an average running back that looks good behind the line. They've got Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce. I mean, they got more weapons than the Colts have.
Yeah, I agree. I agree entirely. Yeah, okay, Cowboys, Rams. What do the Cowboys, Anthony, what do the Cowboys have to do to win this game?
Get pressure on Jared Goff. And don't miss on tackling Todd Gurley.
Mike, is that a hard thing to do, to get pressure on Jared Goff? Is Rams' offensive line that good? Or
Andrew Whitworth is back this week. Todd Gurley is back this week. This is why, to me, this game's a 50-50 game, because I think the Rams could run the ball on the Cowboys, and we know that the Cowboys both of these teams can run the ball. The difference is going to be Jared Goff or Dak Prescott. That's the difference to me. And by difference, it's just whoever turns the ball over less. I mean, in the playoffs, turnovers usually decide everything. And with the Rams and the Cowboys, I mean, I don't know. I trust Dak Prescott to turn the ball over less. So right now, I lean towards the Cowboys. That could change by Friday because it's 4 days and I change my mind a lot. But when I look at this, to me, it's just if Dak Prescott can find Amari Cooper for a couple explosive plays, I think they've got a chance to win the game. Because I'm not sold that the Rams are that good anyways. And also, as you notice, you never heard me bring up the coaches once. I'm not convinced Sean McVay is that great of a football coach. Now, the one thing that would worry me if I'm a Cowboys fan is Wade Phillips on the other side with a couple weeks to prepare. But we don't know how much he prepared for the Cowboys. He probably did.
Yeah, Anthony, don't the Cowboys run their preseason camp out here in California?
Yeah, Oxnard.
Oxnard. So yeah, this is real close to where I live. Yeah. So so they're used to the California climate, so that's not going to be a factor in the game. I hear there probably will be as many Cowboys fans as there are Rams.
It's according. If it's 80 degrees, it might play a factor. The thing that I love about this game is when I was growing up in the 70s, it seemed like the Cowboys and the Rams played every year in the playoffs.
Yeah. So what do the Rams have to do to win the game, Mike?
The Rams, they need to slow down Ezekiel Elliott. If Ezekiel Elliott runs for under 110 yards, I think that the Rams win the game. If Ezekiel Elliott, and the same thing I said last week, and he did it, because I said if he runs 140, 150 yards, they win. He ran 137, and they won. If Ezekiel Elliott can run for 125, 145 yards, I think they win the game, because then you're forced to bring extra people down in the box. And when you bring extra people down in the box, there's less people in the defensive secondary. And I know people are tired of hearing about Dak Prescott can't throw people open, but it's a lot easier to get people open when there's not as many people in coverage. So if Ezekiel Elliott is limited to under 110, 120 yards, I think the Rams can win the game. If they let Ezekiel Elliott go off, I think the Cowboys win the game.
All right. Anthony, you agree?
I do agree, and I think another factor in this game is going to be special teams. If you watch the game, the special teams for Dallas, their punter, Chris Jones, he had, I don't know if you can have a better game punting than he did against the Seahawks. And also, this is a revenge game for Tavon Austin. Tavon Austin was a longtime Ram. He never really panned out. They traded him to Dallas. He had a groin injury all year, and he had an 80-yard punt return touchdown called back against Seattle. And then in the fourth quarter, he had a 51-yard return to really set up, I believe, the go-ahead score. And he had, I think, 72 total punt return yards. I think Tavon Austin is going to have to play a big role in this game.
See, I don't think it's Tavon Austin. I don't think it's the punter. I don't think it's the kicker. I think it's the coverage teams. Because when you look at this, what's the one thing we've said about Anthony or about the Rams for the last 7 or 8 weeks, Anthony, that stuck out to us the most? And that was the fact that they don't have a lot of depth on their team. When you don't have depth on your team, your special teams is not going to be very good.
Absolutely.
You haven't drafted well from the 3rd round through the 7th round, or you've traded too much stuff away to get too much other stuff. So the special teams, I think it's more the coverage teams than anything else. And I just don't think the Rams are very good on special teams. There's 3 phases of the game here. The Cowboys are better on defense. The Rams probably have a small advantage on offense, even though I don't really buy the Jared Goff thing. But I think that the biggest advantage here is the Cowboys' special teams is a lot better than Rams.
Mike, is there a coaching advantage here between McVay and Garrett? Is there a coach, in your opinion? I think I know your answer is going to be, but is there a coaching advantage?
I'm not impressed with either one of them. If there had to be a coaching advantage, I'd probably give it to the Rams just because you got Wade Phillips in their coaching room.
Okay. All right. What do the Chargers have to do to beat the Patriots? Can they beat the Patriots? What do they have to do, Mike?
Pressure. And by pressure, I don't mean blitzing. Occasionally blitz. But if they could get pressure with their defensive line and not have to blitz, they'll win the game. It's that simple. Because there's not enough quality receivers on that Patriots side to be able to win with pressure in a secondary with 4 people, it's 7 guys in coverage. So, I think this has been the key to beating, Tom Brady his entire career. We saw it in Super Bowl 42. They were a much superior team to the Giants, but the Giants had a great defensive line. They pressured him without having to blitz, and they were able to limit the amount of points he scored. They held him to 14 points. I think that is still the big thing here. And the other thing is, I don't think the Patriots' defense is very good. And if Melvin Gordon is healthy and has a big game, I think the Chargers could win this game by double digits.
So, Anthony, who's playing better quarterback right now, Rivers or Brady right now? I know we all think he's the GOAT. He's the GOAT, but we get that. But who's playing better right now?
It's close because the last few games of the year, Phillip Rivers, he didn't have the best games. And I believe he closed the season against Denver, and that was a game they needed to win. But I'm still going to give the edge to Tom Brady. I think he's done enough down the stretch to, make the Patriots look like the Patriots again in the final couple of games. Because defense really, surely isn't doing it.
Yeah, when you look at this game, where are the Chargers not better than the Patriots at? The only place is at quarterback. That's it. I mean, the Chargers
are they close,
better.
Mike? Are they close? Or is it big separation between the two?
The only quarterback I ever saw close to Tom Brady was Joe Montana. Now, he is older, so yeah, it's close now. And it wouldn't surprise me if Rivers outplayed him and all of a sudden Tom Brady looked old. But the difference in the quarterback is why I'm still not sure who I'm picking in this game. When I look at this, though, offensive line, Chargers are better. Defensive line, Chargers are better. Chargers have better running backs. They have better receivers, better skill position players, better linebackers, better DBs. But the Patriots are still going to be favored. Why is that? Tom Brady.
Tom Brady and Bill Belichick.
Yeah, and Bill Belichick. But
yeah,
really, if I was picking this game right now, I would pick the Chargers to play the Colts in the AFC Championship game. And in the NFC,
really,
I would probably pick Dallas to play the Saints. But
okay,
you know
let's go to the other game.
It would still end up the same thing. My Super Bowl would still be the Saints and the Chargers.
Yeah, the last game, Mike. What do the Eagles have to do to win against the Rams or the Saints?
I would say maybe
can they beat them?
Saints oversleep. I just don't see it. I just think there is a huge gap between that Eagles secondary going up against Drew Brees, and Drew Brees is at home. The opportunity I would give them is they would have to be able to run the ball. And with Darren Sproles, Wendell Smallwood, which I feel bad for him when he was in school because he got teased a lot. Nick Foles could play the game of his life, and they could still lose this game 48-30. This is the one game here I have no question who's going to win.
Okay. Anthony, what do the Saints have to do to win the game?
I think the Saints just play mistake-free football, and I think they should handle this game.
Yeah. The Saints just got to be the Saints. If the Saints are just the Saints, and they just play like the Saints do, they'll be in the Super Bowl. Because
does a week off hurt them or help them, Mike?
I think a week off always hurts you when you're playing well.
Anthony?
Now, I think it really hurts you when you get the week off and you sat everybody for a week. So really, you're 3 weeks from playing.
That's how I feel. I think the week off is okay, but when you're benching players in week 17 and then that's 2 weeks off, your players are cold, and sometimes that blows up in people's faces.
Yeah, and people forget that's 2 weeks off. Plus, you had 6 days back from the last game, so you're 20 days.
Right.
And I think I think that it has its advantages and disadvantages. I would say it's according to how beat up your team is, too. If you got a team that's beat up, yeah, it's a great thing to have all that time off. If Drew Brees comes out and plays poorly for more than 3 series, that's because the Eagles play so well. Because I don't think it affects Drew Brees because he's done this how many times. But, I mean, and the other thing, Steve, we didn't even talk about the Eagles-Bears since you stopped me.
Go ahead. Yeah. No, go ahead. Yeah, talk about it.
You told me you were going to run it, so you asked the questions. But My question is this.
No, I'm sorry. I mean, they lost, so what's the point of talking about it?
Well, we have to talk about the game.
Doink, doink, miss.
Yeah, but it's not the kicker's fault. It's never the kicker's fault because you had a whole game to play to do something before that.
Oh, I don't agree with you there. I'm sorry. He gets paid a lot of money. You get paid $1 million a year just to make that kick. He doesn't do anything else. He sits there all day long.
You really think that this guy makes $1 million a year?
I don't know what kickers make. I don't. I mean, I think Vinatieri makes that kind of money. I mean, he makes $3 or $4 million, but that's Adam Vinatieri. So that's. But I think, okay, well, that may be true. So, but I still think when you have one job to do, and you drill it between the uprights, and the coach calls timeout on you, and then you come back, and then you start you outguess yourself, and you just shank it. I mean, you know, there's players and players. Oh,
what?
Cody Parkey's making $5.5 million this year.
No, he's not.
Is he really? Okay.
I'm looking at his contract right now.
Who pays a kicker that much money unless it's Adam Vinatieri?
He signed a 4-year, $15 million contract with the Bears this offseason.
Well, he's not making $5.5 million there. That'd be $4 million or a little under $4 million.
Well, he probably got a signing bonus.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 5.5 in year one, and then 3.5 next year, 2.625 next year.
How much you want to bet there's no next year?
Yeah, there isn't going to be a next year.
No.
Yeah, there's not going to be next year. Yeah,
but still,
that's your one job. I mean, if you pay that kind of money,
your one job as an offensive team and a defensive team is to never let it come to a kicker.
Well, yeah, I get that point too. I see that, but you know it did, and you expect that your $5.5 million a year liquored up kicker, Vanderjack, as Peyton Manning called him.
Well, how about this? The thing that struck me was this: I thought Mitch Trubisky played really well. 26 for 43, 303 yards. The thing that stood out to me was the Bears' lack of being able to run the ball. I mean, they were held at 70 yards.
Yeah, they struggle offensively. I mean, they're not there offensively yet. They're I think they're good defensively, but they're still, you know, they've got some downside on offense. But they're out. They're done. They're not playing next week, so why worry about them?
Because we were really going to talk about the Eagles too, but because we never really talked about them since picking a game. But you're in charge, so. And Nick Foles,
I'm not in charge.
The thing that's amazing, what were the turnovers in this game? Because Nick Foles threw 2 picks. I mean, instead of turnovers, I assume favored, because I only got to watch like the start and the end because Risley made me do an IU basketball show game during it. Anthony, do you believe that?
Wait. What, basketball?
Yeah, Indiana played Michigan, and with 10 minutes left in the third quarter, I start getting these texts from Steve and Colin wanting to know when we're going to do the Indiana basketball show. And I'd already told Steve,
trying to watch
do it
the
at
Golden
8 o'clock.
Globes.
Nobody cares about the Golden Globes. They don't.
Well,
did you see the little thing when they ran out with the flu shots and started shooting people up with the flu vaccine?
Yeah, it was cute.
Yeah, it was stupid
but cute.
It was absolutely ignorant.
Very stupid.
It's basically
I agree.
just indoctrinating people into a vaccination, bullshit.
I agree.
You thought it was cute, so you don't agree. I'm very disappointed in you.
No, I thought it was cute for the moment, but then when you look at it back, it's like, okay, I really don't want somebody giving me a flu shot when I'm in a tux sitting here. I don't know who you are, if you're a healthcare professional or anything. It's like, no, just, I got my flu shot from my healthcare professional. So,
why would you get a flu shot? That's
whatever.
Stupid. Doesn't help you from getting the flu, does it, Anthony?
I don't think so. I don't get a flu shot.
Thank you. Do you ever get the flu, Anthony?
Probably not, to be honest.
There you go. Now he'll get the flu. He'll miss next week's show. Should have been at the Golden Globe.
All right, Mike. Wrap it up. Wrap it up, Mike. We pretty well.
I'll wrap it up. But I want to remind people tonight, of course, the national championship game in college football between the Alabama Crimson Tide and the Clemson Tigers will be played at 8 o'clock. The game should end somewhere around 11:30 or 12 o'clock. Immediately after the game, the Greeley Truth will have a post-game show with myself, of course, Steve Risley, Brian Schmidt, and Bill Searcy. who played for the 1978-79 national champion Alabama Crimson Tide under Coach Bear Bryant. So we'll be on there, and hopefully I can give him a bunch of crap about Clemson beating Alabama. So make sure you check us live on thegrizzlytruth.net after that, or you can go to Spreaker and find us live also. Remember, you can also find all of our shows on iHeartRadio, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you find sports podcasts, you'll find The Grueling Truth. So for Anthony Cervino, Steve Risley, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.